Hello and welcome to Startup Street. I'm Arundhati Ramnan, and with me as always is Shruti Mishra. These are the top headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Zomato receives a GST demand of over 400 crore rupees along with a penalty of over 400 crore rupees and interest charges. Tax Department says Zomato failed to include delivery charges in GST return filings even as the company contests the claim.
10-minute food delivery enters a new frontier months after Swiggy launched Bolt. Zomato and Blinkit launches Bistro. Zepto to launch a separate app for its Zepto Cafe unit next week.
EV startup Voice secures 5 crore rupees in seed funding led by BizData in a push for eco-friendly public transportation. With this funding, the company plans to deploy 2,500 electric vehicles and expand its presence across Tier 2 cities in India.
Superphone raises $1.9 million in pre-Series A funding led by Your Nest Venture Capital, Ankur Capital, FinSight Seed Fund and a consortium of angel investors also participated. The funds will be deployed to acquire national-level telecom licenses.
Meta is releasing an AI model called Meta Motivo, could control the movements of a human-like digital agent with the potential to enhance metaverse experiences. Meta's capital expense forecast for 2024 will be at a record high of between $37 to $40 billion. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you from the startup world, but straight to the big story today. Zomato has received a GST demand of over 800 crore rupees. CNBC-TV18 accessed the 57-page notice. The tax department has alleged that Zomato failed to include delivery charges in GST return filings between October 2019 and March 2022 and is hence liable to pay 18% GST. The order also claims Zomato changed contracts with delivery partners and claimed that the tax liability was on independent service providers. Zomato has contested the GST authority's claims in a statement. The company believes it has a strong case on merit and will be filing an appeal against the order.
Well, also on what's brewing, global deep tech venture capital firm Celesta Capital has onboarded technology investor and product leader Anand Chandrasekaran as managing partner. Anand has more than 2 decades of experience identifying transformative startups as well as founding and scaling global companies. To talk to us about Celesta's 2025 growth plans, joining me now are Celesta Capital's managing partners, Anand Chandrasekaran and Arun Kumar. Anand and Arun, welcome to Startup Street. Arun, let me first start with you. Let's talk about 2024. It has been a fabulous year for Indian tech startups, hitting the bosses, record number of IPOs. Your take on how the year has been for the Indian startup ecosystem?
Yeah, it's really great to be here. We had a great year at Celesta in 2024. We had a number of exciting milestones in Celesta. Most recently, we invested in a very exciting company in India called One Cell Diagnostics, which is a very promising bioconvergence, AI-enabled cancer diagnostics company for precision oncology. So we led a substantial Series A round for them. And it's a great example of the potential of the US-India corridor. Great science and technology being developed in India, which can then be taken globally. We had invested in the rocket startup, Nickel Cosmos, which had a successful first rocket launch, powered by their single-piece 3D printed engine. This received a lot of attention, including to the level of Prime Minister Modi. The other investments of ours did really well. Pixxel, which is a company that was spawned here in India, has gone global. They were a Gen AI company before Gen AI became such a common term. And they're doing really, really well, focused globally, but particularly in the Americas. 5C Networks, another AI-enabled company here, is seeing extremely good growth in India as well as beginning to expand globally. And then last year, we had IdeaForge, which had a very successful IPO. So we have had overall a great 2024.
Absolutely.
Looking globally in other parts of Celesta universe, AI chip startup Recognize received $100 million financing and an exciting partnership with Juniper to deliver energy-efficient generative AI systems. We welcome Crescendo AI, which Anand will talk about.
Yes.
He's a founder of Crescendo AI into our portfolio. Very interesting company.
All right.
It's transformative in its approach
All right. So Arun, the
And we
portfolio
are
companies.
delighted.
So the portfolio companies have done well. You've built some great partnerships. Let me go across to Anand now. Anand, tell us, how does it feel to be back on the other side of the cap table? Celesta is a big on deep tech, and having previously served as a partner at General Catalyst, as well as product leader at Meta, Five9, Bharti Airtel, Snapdeal, you bring years of experience to the VC firm. What's exciting you the most now?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me as well. Really excited to be part of such a great team. As Arun mentioned, the firm has been investing since 2013 and has 4 active funds, over $1 billion in AUM. The 3 things that I really like are, one, a very clear focus on early stage deep tech that Celesta has. For over a decade, the firm has been investing in just companies that have strong IP, differentiated technologies, durable differentiation as a result of that. And the team has really developed a lot of operating experience in this area. And in a way, we're kindred souls. So I have the same kind of background in terms of operating experience.
Yes.
And lastly, as these really incredible founders build in India for the world as well as for the local markets, a lot of times they need sort of very unique market access, which Celesta has invested quite a bit of time in building.
Yes.
That it brings for the firm. So really excited to be part of the team here.
All right. Arun, coming back to you, how do you see leaders like Anand shaping how Celesta builds its presence in India? And also, if you could talk to us about how the next year will pan out for the startup ecosystem, given the election, geopolitical, and the macroeconomic headwinds and tailwinds are concerned.
Well, first of all, very excited to have Anand join us. He typifies the kind of success that we look to create in a broad sense in the US-India corridor, because the US-India tech corridor, we believe, is going to be a tremendous locus of innovation and great companies. And Anand typifies success in India and Silicon Valley. And the fact that he's sitting in Silicon Valley and I'm sitting here in Bangalore, we're working together is an example of what we'd like to see in a very broad sense. So here we are targeting deep tech growth sectors, from semiconductors, fabless semiconductors, transportation and logistics, space tech, as I mentioned, advanced manufacturing, industrial automation, AI, and bioconvergence. These are the broad areas that we are looking to invest in. Globally, we have invested over 100 companies, and about 15% of our investments are in India. So looking at the overall macroeconomic outlook and the dynamics that are happening geopolitically, I think India is in a very good position, and we are in a very good position because of the US-India focus that we have. India is going to benefit from a number of the geopolitical trends. The great emphasis on global resilience of supply chains means that more and more companies will do work in India. India itself, looking to be more resilient, will want to have more companies focused on meeting Indian demand locally. And we have played in that space. I mean, IdeaForge is a great example of that, and other companies that we've invested in will play very much into the Indian market as well as the global market. I think innovation is going to be another part that's going to be central to India's relationship with the US. So as you may know, there's this whole initiative on critical and emerging technologies that's focused on getting the US and India to work together and removing many of the barriers in working together so that both countries can work at the forefront. And this is going to drive more needs for innovation. And that's where the funds like us come in to help promote that ecosystem innovation.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about where the geopolitical trends are taking the opportunities for us and for us both in India and in the US.
All right, Anand, coming back to you. Arun touched upon this a little bit. If you could talk to us about your future investment strategy for India and the kind of sectors and startups you will be targeting.
Yeah, I think the overall deep tech space is having sort of its moment, right? So I've been lucky to partner with founders over a decade at this point. And in the first phase, we saw global companies get replicated in India, what we call the X of Y companies, whether it's Amazon of India, Uber of India, and so on. In the second phase, we started to see SaaS founders, software founders, build in India for the world, where the markets were really outside India and for the most part.
Okay.
And then we started to take B2C capabilities, B2C marketplace capabilities, and start to invest that in digitizing various sectors of GDP, right? Whether it's B2B marketplaces and other ways. And now we're in almost like the fourth phase where Indian founders, almost emboldened by the success of the last 10 years, are taking on the most ambitious challenges, as Arun just outlined.
Sure.
And so we're really in this moment where there are strong IP, strongly differentiated technologies that are starting to get built out of India.
Okay.
Of course, software founders have created a path for how these companies can launch in India and grow globally. So we're really excited about pursuing a lot of the sectors that Arun just talked about, which, by the way, is where we've invested over the last 10 years or so. But I think we have this moment where, for all the reasons that Arun just talked about, the macro trends and so on,
all right,
the India-US corridor starts to come into prominence going forward.
Sure. Let's talk about AI now. Arun, how do you view the scalability of Gen AI and deep tech startups? If you could quickly throw some light on that.
Sure. Yeah, so we see AI as central to our view of opportunities, both in the US as well as here. And so we've invested for several years now in the whole stack, all from the semiconductor level all the way through systems and applications. And we're seeing great examples right here in India. I briefly mentioned 5C networks, which brings AI to radiology across the length and breadth of the country. And they're seeing amazing results. I mentioned OneCell, which is an example of bioconvergence, bringing AI and computer science together with biotech and genomics. Pixxel, which also I mentioned, is an example of a company born in India in Gen AI that's seeing success globally. So we are seeing that Gen AI is going to be an area of great opportunity for us. Most recently, we're working with a company that is applying Gen AI to enterprises. So across the board, from whether it's from the semiconductor level to the applications level, or whether it's from areas like healthcare or more broad enterprises, we're seeing that AI is going to be very, very impactful. It is a cycle shift that we think will bring great opportunities.
Absolutely. And we've seen that with Crescendo AI as well, that has reached more than 50+ million in revenue and $500 million in less than a year of operations in terms of valuation. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Many thanks, the both of you, for joining us today on Startup Street, and wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, Pixxel bags an additional $24 million in a Series B round to help it scale its operations. We speak to the founder to find out the firm's growth blueprint on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. Google-backed space tech startup Pixxel has announced the closing of $24 million in additional funding as part of its Series B round. It raised these funds from new investors M&G Catalyst and Gladebrook Capital Partners. They now join the cap table with existing backers that include Google, Radical Ventures, Lightspeed, and others. The Bengaluru and California-based startup had earlier raised $36 million in the first tranche of its Series B round in June last year. With this, Pixxel has raised a total of $95 million across all funding rounds to date. Joining me now to discuss this further is Awais Ahmed, the founder and CEO of Pixxel. Awais, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, and congratulations on raising these funds. You've raised this additional $24 million. You'll primarily use this to launch your entire constellation of 18 commercial hyperspectral satellites planned for the near future. If you could sort of take us through the plans on this front, and where else will the funds go?
Absolutely, glad to be here. I think it's a good sign of confidence in us that the investors sort of came in with that additional 24 million. We didn't really go out looking for it. We were just having some conversations with interested investors, and that ended up sort of coming into our bank account, which is a good place to be. But to answer your question, I think the major focus of the additional 24 million will be to accelerate plans of the deployment of our constellation. So up to date, over the last 3 years, we have built and launched 3 satellites that have gone up there, that have beamed down data that we have sold to customers and shown how satellite imagery can help make impact on Earth. But with the additional 24 million, we are going to be launching 6 of our commercial Firefly satellites, what we call Fireflies, that will go up, provide us with global coverage with a daily revisit, which means I can come back and relook at any place on the globe every 24 hours, and also help accelerate our plans for 12 additional satellites in 2026. So 6 more satellites in 2025 very soon now, and 12 more satellites in 2026 is what this additional funding will help us to launch and build.
Right. So 6 satellites for the coming year at this point. But, speaking about these satellites, you essentially are developing hyperspectral imagery satellites, right? If you could sort of explain to us what it is that you do, sort of in layman terms so people can understand, and what's the demand you're sort of seeing at this point?
Absolutely. So I think in the most basic sense, we are photographers, but we're photographers of our planet. So you have these satellites, we put cameras on the satellites, and the cameras are deployed in an orbit around the Earth. And so they're continuously orbiting around the Earth and going to different places. And what they do is whenever they come over an area of interest, let's say a farm or an oil and gas pipeline, or a certain city that a municipal corporation wants to see, we switch on the camera, we take an image, and then we downlink that image down to Earth to analyze what's happening, right? And so what hyperspectral means is, instead of being able to just see things in the visible range like human eyes can see, we can go way beyond that to see a lot of invisible problems that are plaguing our planet. For example, if there is certain level of pollution happening within water bodies or lakes in our cities, we can identify what specific chemical is being imparted into the water. Where is it coming from? Or we've been talking about the AQI levels of New Delhi for quite a while now. Where are these effluents actually coming from? What is causing the level of AQI increase from there? So those invisible things that normal cameras or human eyes can't see, that's what our hyperspectral cameras on our satellites enable us to do. In terms of use cases and demand, I think we're seeing quite a bit of that over the last few years now that we put up some satellites up there. Quite a bit of it is from agricultural companies. We have signed an agreement with the Ministry of Agriculture in India where we help them identify which crop is growing where in the country. We help identify what nutrients are present in the soil or not. We help identify what is the yield for a particular crop going to be, and therefore to plan for either importing or exporting that particular crop. If you're looking at oil and gas industries and companies, we help look at oil leaks and gas leaks from pipelines, both above ground and underground. We help mining companies reduce their impact on mining operations when deforestation is happening and not. And we can just about look anywhere on the planet, from melting polar ice caps to increasing sea levels to where the hurricanes might come and forest fires and so on and so forth. As of now, we have more than 50 customers that have already signed with us in anticipation of the Fireflies going up in all of these industries, including the Indian government, the US government, such as NASA, that we recently signed a contract with. So the demand, I think, is there. We just need to now send a lot of these satellites up and provide that data.
So demand is something you're clearly seeing for your product and for what you're able to offer. Pixxel reported an operating revenue of 15 crore rupees and a loss of a little over 10 crore rupees in FY23, right? So if you could, you've signed a lot of deals, like you said, one with NASA recently. So if you could take us through what you're going to expect for FY24, what are the targets, where are you going from here?
Yeah, so I think, we're a different kind of business compared to most businesses. We have to spend a lot of money on building these satellites and launching them to space. before we can start to see a significant amount of revenues coming in, right? And that's true for most deep tech companies, but especially for space technology companies where the hardware cost, whether that's rocket for rocket companies or satellite cost for satellite companies like ourselves. And so you will see losses for the first few years of operations. But what happens is, let's say when we launch this constellation of Firefly satellites we are talking about next year, there are a lot of these contracts that we have signed that customers are waiting for. And when the data starts to come from this commercial satellite constellation, that's when we start to generate revenues and it starts to pay back for itself. So roughly in terms of economics, it's a 7-year life cycle for a satellite. From it being launched in space to us wanting to replace it takes 7 years. The first year is generally recouping the cost. It costs between 14 to 30 crores, depending on what kind of satellite you're looking at to build a satellite. And then it takes, multiply that by 6 for the cost, but you recoup that in less than a year. And then after that, it's purely an 80% margin business on the basis of data you're selling, because the recurring costs of operations are not very high because most of those costs are on the satellite. So what is for us next year? It's basically getting to a point where we are EBITDA positive, where we are also hopefully cash flow positive, but that might end up taking till mid 2026 for us to get. But once these 6 satellites are launched, which is the phase 1 of our constellation, that's when we will start to see a significant amount of revenues come in. Up until now, it was a pilot here, a pilot there because of the demo satellites that we launched. But now hopefully that dam opens up for the revenue to come.
So hopefully the dam opens up and you will be EBITDA positive by 2026 or maybe even towards the end of 2025. All right, Oais, thank you so much for joining us on the show and we wish you all the best on this journey going forward.
Lovely. Thank you, Tupi. Thank you. Good to be here.
Moving on, the 10-minute food delivery race continues to heat up. Quick commerce player Blinkit has announced the launch of Bistro in a bid to compete with Zepto Cafe. This is the second attempt by Zomato to venture into the instant food delivery segment. Shilpa Ranipeta joins us now with the details. Shilpa, the cafe wars are heating up.
If we can get our grocery, clothes and bed sheets in 10 minutes, why not coffee and meals? Consumer expectations are rapidly evolving and so the next big bet of quick commerce players is food. The latest entrant in this space is Zomato's Blinkit, which has just launched Bistro, its 10-minute food delivery offering. Yet to be operational, Bistro's website suggests that it will deliver healthy juices, snacks and meals in minutes. Now remember, this is Zomato's second attempt at food delivery after Instant failed in 2022. Bistro now takes on Zepto Cafe directly, which interestingly also just announced that it will launch a separate app for cafe next week as it expands its presence in metros while also adding more to its menu. Now this comes on the back of the success that Zepto has seen for its food offering. 30,000 orders per day. And CEO Adit Palicha says that a separate app has a significant consumer top-of-the-mind advantage and he sees the economics work for a standalone app. Now, Swiggy is no stranger to this space either. In October, it launched Bolt, a 10-minute food delivery offering from restaurants within a 2-kilometer radius. And consumers are lapping it up. Within 2 months of launch, Bolt already accounts for 5% of all food deliveries. But it is important to note there's a slight difference in how each of them is doing this. Now, Zepto and Blinkit's 10-minute food delivery offering will offer snacks, beverages, meals that are prepared in their kitchens. And Zepto sources some of its ready-to-eat meals from local vendors. But on the other hand, Swiggy is offering 10-minute food delivery through its restaurant partners, and this is on its core delivery app where it partners with restaurants to deliver dishes that require minimal to no preparation time, and this is strictly within a 2-kilometer radius. So here it is, the next big growth frontier for food delivery apps, which is food in 10 minutes.
All right, Shilpa, many thanks for those details. It is Friday and it's time to take stock of all the deals from the startup world. According to Venture Intelligence, this week has seen a total of 22 deals worth $440 million. Some of the notable deals include supply chain financier for SMEs. Mintify took home $100 million, while global manufacturing platform Zetwork will raise $67 million at a $3 billion valuation.
Well, the list also includes furniture brand Wooden Street, which got $43 million in a Series C round. Orchids brand school owner K12 Techno attracted $40 million. And finally, rooftop solar startup Solar Square raised $40 million in a Series B round. This year has seen a total of 797 deals worth a whopping $10.6 billion.
So lots of action there on the Startup Deal Street. But with that, Shruti, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.